of the coconut scraper, and they're ready for assembly in this final episode. But before we do, let's give everything a quick sand. The pieces that have been through the thicknesser already just need a light sand. They're already pretty smooth, but this will help show off the grain. And then I used a rougher grit just to round off the edges, especially this pointy bit that could be dangerous in the wrong hands. And also to sand all the edges of it, because this hasn't been sanded before. It's only been through the various saws. And then a final sand by hand, smooth out those corners and edges. And also a little bit of a soaking. This will help wash off all the sawdust, but it also serves to raise up the grain a little bit, and then you give it a final sand. But as well as that, it can show you what it's going to look like when it's got some varnish on it. Alright, so we let those dry for a while, and then by the next morning everything was ready to put together. And I started with the braces. So these are the braces. They connect the legs and they form the sides of the coconut scraper. And I'm going to join them to the legs using some galvanized screws so that it'll last well outdoors. And they'll attach into those corners that we cut out. And we'll repeat that same process for each of the other 4 corners. And that forms the foundation of the scraper. All right, but I'm going to add one more screw at 90 degrees to the first one, and this is to give a really solid joint. So with those screws at 90 degrees and glued and the cut out for each of the braces, we get a really strong joint, because coconut scraper has a fair bit of force applied to it when you're sitting on it and you're scraping the coconut. So we want to make sure that it's strong and that it doesn't flex. So this is a way that we can achieve a very strong structure without having too many parts, and to still keep it with a kind of clean design as well. So one last chance to check that I haven't stuffed everything up and that it's still pretty square. Process on the other corners, and that should result in a very strong structure foundation for the top of our coconut scraper. Right, and this is very easy to attach. Just drill some holes through the brace and then use screws and glue. And then finally the business end of the scraper, I just pre-drilled the holes for that before putting the varnish on here, and that will protect the wood from being in the elements as well. I think I put 3 coats of varnish on altogether and let them dry in between and gave them a little sand. And then I put some epoxy on the back of the scraper so that it would be really securely attached to the front. And this is our finished product. And I'm really happy with the way that those different scraps of timber go together. You can see some interesting colors and patterns in there. But before we finish this video, I thought we'd do a little tutorial on using a coconut scraper. This is probably one of the least cooperative coconuts I ever scraped on a coconut scraper before. It didn't want to come easily in two halves. But I did manage to get one good half out of it. So we've got half the coconut. Use a kind of rotational action, and it will grate that coconut into a fine kind of material, which you can then squeeze and make coconut milk out of it, or you can boil it up and make coconut oil, or whatever your particular cuisine demands of you. But anyway, that is the end of our series of how to make a coconut scraper. I hope you've enjoyed watching. Thanks for watching, and check out the next series, which is coming soon. Bye!